Krystal, what are you taking a look at?
Well, folks, you will not be surprised to learn that CNN is paid propaganda. But a new report from Adam Johnson and Gabe Levine-Dryzen spells out just how direct the link might be between money and so-called reporting. Suffice it to say, you are not going to see any of this reporting anywhere in the mainstream media, but here is that bombshell piece of journalism over on Adam's Substack called The Column. The headline is, CNN won't say if it's running undisclosed PR for a Gulf dictatorship. CNN's Dubai Now section has been publishing as straight news scores of cartoonish puff pieces for the UAE, an absolute dictatorship that imprisons journalists and activists. Now, they go through in this post 106 different feel-good stories about how tolerant and innovative and just plain spectacular the UAE is. Here's a little bit of a sample so you can get a taste. A video segment gives us a glimpse into doing yoga in Dubai's rainforest, with a bunch of mostly Western-looking women in sports bras rolling out mats inside a fake rainforest dome. So that's one piece they did there. Here's another one that's just straight-up tourism advertisement. Emirates offer a free hotel stay with your Dubai layover. Some really hard-hitting journalism there. Great job, CNN. And this is my personal favorite. The UAE has announced its first female astronaut. Nothing like a repressive autocracy that tolerates so-called honor killings, dabbling in a little identity politics. And just in case you were wondering, the piece contains zero language about the UAE's atrocious record on women's rights. In fact, if you read or watch these pieces, you can see exactly who they're ultimately pitched to. The women in them are either actually Western or dressed in Western garb with maybe a little touch of Arab flair. The focus is on progressive concepts, things like sustainability, wellness, tolerance, equality. The message is, come, rich white people, spend your tourist dollars and open your businesses here. We're not like those other repressive petrostates that you've heard about. We're different. We absolutely won't flog your women or stone your gays to death. So in their extensive investigation of 106 different UAE puff pieces, Adam and Gabe found precisely one which had any sort of indication that it might be paid content. That one contains a vague and frankly indecipherable disclaimer that says, CNN series often carry sponsorship originating from the countries and regions we profile. However, CNN retains full editorial control over all of its reports. Good to know that y'all fully stand behind all of these amazing works of journalism. But that's it. No other indication that this propaganda is in fact directly paid propaganda, which is the only logical conclusion based on the nauseating quality of every single one of these pieces. CNN naturally refused to comment. They are correctly calculating that no mainstream outlets will cover this outrageous breach of ethics. But Jesus Christ, what a bunch of hypocrites over there. It is incredible. The UAE is literally ranked last in the entire world in terms of press freedom. And yet CNN President Jeff Zucker and his stable of anchors routinely run around moralizing about the sanctity of a free press. There seem to be some major carve-outs there, though, for, let's say, Julian Assange, and apparently anyone who's willing to pay CNN enough money. CNN's media reporter Brian Stelter has been particularly preachy about good reporting in journalism lately. Just listen to a bit of his comments on the topic, while keeping in mind, again, that his news outlet is running cover for a dictatorship that jails journalists.
What's the nutritional value of the content? Is it produced by reporters or by repeaters? So at the risk of repeating myself a little bit, okay? Repeaters are the talk radio shouters who tell listeners to hate the other side. They're on TV and radio telling the same story every day. Repeaters are outlets like One America News, which replays Donald Trump's lies on a loop and runs random news packages made by other companies. Repeaters are all over Facebook in hyper-partisan private groups that cherry-pick stories and confrontational memes and make you really rageful. Repeaters are Twitter trolls who anonymously amplify propaganda and try to wear the rest of us down with their repetition. In the meantime, all of us need to see the difference between reporting and repeating, because reporting adds value and repeating often subtracts value.
So Brian, what would you call, let's say, a news outlet churning out dictator-friendly propaganda for a bag of cash? What category does that one fall into? What an absolute joke. And what I can't stop thinking about is all of CNN's feigned concern for the women and girls of Afghanistan, all conveniently, of course, in the service of keeping us endlessly at war. Now, I'm not saying the UAE is as bad as the Taliban as far as women are concerned, but it's not exactly a feminist dream. Women have been criminally convicted for extramarital affairs as punishment for coming forward with rape allegations. Spousal rape, is not recognized. You've got to get permission from a male guardian to do basic things. UAE law includes a gigantic carve-out that effectively permits domestic violence in service of disciplining your wife. And a woman can be cast down altogether if she won't have sex with her husband often enough. But by far, the worst treatment is reserved for the domestic workers who make up around 80% of the population and about 90% of the workforce. Now, these are typically impoverished migrants, often brought in by traffickers from a lot of South Asian countries, places like Bangladesh and India. These workers are treated as less than human. Physical and sexual violence is common. Low wages, outright wage theft, long hours, terrible conditions are the norm. Their employer often confiscates their passport so they can't leave even if they want to. That is the land of tolerance and progress that CNN is shamelessly selling you on here. Now, it would certainly appear that for the right price, CNN will print whatever you want them to print, record whatever propaganda videos you want them to record. And as Adam and Gabe point out, this is not even the first time that CNN has been caught taking cash in exchange for covering up for repressive Gulf dictatorships. Glenn Greenwald actually exposed how they pulled a hard-hitting piece on Bahrain, apparently because they're getting too much money from that particular kingdom as well. CNN will whitewash human trafficking. They will ignore imprisoned journalists. They will look the other way as the LGBTQ community is criminalized. But God forbid you say something mean to Jim Acosta, because that would really cross a line. And Sagar, it's pretty amazing. Look, a lot of news outlets have these like paid pieces.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.